better buckle up, 'cause Daddy's home. Warning, trigger warning. For some people, hearing something that reminds them of their childhood or their past, or even their current situation can be too much for them to handle. Everyone's different. Other people need to hear what they're going through so they don't feel so alone and they feel validated. I'm here to validate you and be here for you when you're ready. But if it's too much for you to deal with childhood trauma about your father, even your mother, I would warn you not to listen to this at this time. I chose this picture because it reminds me of my stepsister whom I helped raise when she was a little girl, and she meant the world to me. And I don't know if she blocked out the trauma of when Daddy came home, but I imagine she has. But this is a typical story of what it's like when Daddy comes home. The little girl sits on the couch, her beloved white toy poodle in her lap, waiting for her daddy to come home from work. She's about 5 years old. Mummy's in the kitchen cooking dinner. It smells so good. Her mummy is the best cook in the world and the most beautiful woman on earth. Daddy is very handsome too. An intense fear and confliction rises up in the little girl's tummy. She doesn't know whether she should be excited her daddy's home or be in morbid dread that something is going or someone is going to die tonight. And she so loves her daddy so very much. It would be really easy to be happy to see him. Sometimes he's so much fun to be around. He's the center of her universe and her world. He's the one person she has the most fun with and can connect to. He's the funniest man on earth and the strongest. Oh, how this little girl looks up to him. So, why is she so scared? She sits there gripping the chair that she's sitting in, waiting for Daddy to come home. As night falls, she can hear his van coming down the street, the Dodge motor purring. Do I say hello to him, she asks herself? Or is this one of those days I should ignore him? This happens every single day except on weekends. You see, no matter what the little girl does, no matter which option she takes, it will always be the wrong one. Daddy is a narcissist. He's an abuser mentally, verbally, psychologically, and physically to the people in his life. Mentally, verbally, and psychologically abusive to his little girl. Later on, as the little girl grows older, she will find out that he's even sexually abusive to the women in his life. If she says hello to her daddy, she is in big trouble. And if she does not say hello to her daddy and just continues watching her TV show, she is in big trouble. It goes something like this. When Daddy comes home and slams the door, if the little girl doesn't say anything, he says, I effing come home and I don't even get a hi? I don't even get a hello? Then he says to his little girl, his little sad, scared girl, you don't effing love me. Nobody loves me. Nobody gives a about me. Nobody cares. You're just mother effers. You're all a bunch of a-holes. I work hard every day and nobody gives a about me. He's yelling it and he's slamming things and throwing things around. grabs his beer and lights a cigarette. A routine like clockwork every day. But at least it's not as bad as every Christmas time. That's for another story and another time. When she's older, the little girl will think back to how one of his favorite movies was The Shining, where Jack Nicholson says, "Wendy, I'm home." And then he says, "Here's Johnny." Her daddy always said it in a comical joking ways, and when he was abusing people, especially her mother. But her father used her mother's name or said honey. Now, mother was cooking dinner, always making fabulous, delicious meals, looking as beautiful as ever. She always kept the house clean. It was perfectly just so, and she kept herself looking just so. She, too, was a very hard worker. Daddy would walk into the kitchen, come up behind her, and give her a big hug from behind while she's chopping up meat, and then shove it up her nose, grabbing her head, face, and hair, and say to her, "What the F is this, huh? What the sh- Are you going to feed me this? What is this shit?" The little girl will black out and not remember between that and sitting at the dinner table. But this was a nightly routine. And as they happily ate their delicious food in a moment of peace, the little girl handed scraps to the dog under the table, hoping not to get caught. She loved her puppy so much. Her only source of real comfort. In a sudden terrorizing moment, Daddy would slam his fists on the table and start yelling and screaming, swearing and threatening everyone like he's in some sort of delusion and is seeing things we can't see. The little girl blacks out again. You see, he wasn't in a delusion. He's a narcissistic abuser. And for him, and for all narcissists, it's about control, narcissistic supply, and becoming people they wish to be but can never be. They try to act it out, this facade, and it eventually fails. The facade shatters and comes off. They cannot keep it up, especially at the end of the day. So the mask comes off. The cycle starts up again. Each cycle may last a day, a few days, a week, a month, a year or so. Her father did everything whole-souled for the things that mattered to him. He worked very hard at everything and was a perfectionist. He was a wannabe actor and did some roles. He was a really good alcoholic, good at hiding it and functioning fairly well even on the job. He was a very good user of drugs who could hide that well too. He never sat down much ever. He always stood, bent over, resting his hands on his knees, or paced. He was a hard-working man. He kept the house he lived in clean meticulously, and he worked very hard on the job at work in construction. He was the best at his work and everyone knew it. He did everything overtime, and overboard. He loved to copy comedians. He was a comedian. He was very charming and everyone loved him. But behind closed doors, and even sometimes in front of everyone, when people found out who he really is and that they could not help him, oh, how they struggled to get away from him. Wished they never encountered him. He even abused his little girl's best friend, her beloved little toy poodle, later kicking it around and starving it half to death, possibly murdering it. No one knows what happened to it later. He was death-dealing poison with an intent to destroy every family and person's lives that he met. Whether knowingly or unknowingly, he was murderous in his intentions. He would go on to rape, threaten, and even try to kill people later in his life. Yet today was a good day in the little girl's life. No one died. She wasn't left alone today due to her parents trying to kill one another, as they often seem to try hard at. But the little girl's mother took all of her emotional and physical pain from abuse out on her little girl, for she too was a narcissistic abuser. Children who believe someone is going to die, either them or someone they love, or if they witness abuse, often go on to develop PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, or CPTSD, complex post-traumatic stress disorder. Even repeated daily trauma, stress, and neglect that cannot be escaped or dealt with, especially as an only child, usually brings disorders, sickness, and complex post-traumatic stress disorder. This can last a lifetime even after the abuse is long gone. It can affect every aspect of a person's adult life. When others deny a person's truth and what they went through, it furthers the negative effects of abuse. So let's all try to break these bonds and change these cycles. Thank you for watching and listening. Jessica Faye.